Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. Today, continuing on with simplifying the case at hand. Whilst I did the community aspect using simple common sense, even though it's been long forgotten with time, I did mention about a map related video or including it. So that's why I want to catch up today to mention that. Blank canvas, paint the picture, tell the story, the supposed reality up to a certain point. At least things what we've known of and seen our own eyes, documented with a form of hard evidence, then just expanding from that. And then also just acknowledging the mention of multiple events taking place. Maybe I can visually apply it onto the maps, which I've not really done before. There's a bit of a hybrid going on nowadays. Very interesting. Now, I regard myself as a hybrid, just like my channel. But it seems like some people in the community are combining previous thoughts and new ideas, combining them together as one, a series of events, a series of unfortunate events, accidents, or maybe more so darkness, murder, foul play, covering up, components to step by step. What's really going on? Just ideas at this moment in time, but they can transition into facts. Also, join me later today as I acknowledge some true colours being shown within some. There's been the odd response by the odd person in regard to me, so it'll be interesting to document that. There's some people out there, as they open their mouth and elsewhere, if they did the same, they'd probably get blocked and eliminated immediately. But the reality is, there are some people within the case, within the community that are just a problem, and they do need to be monitored and they do need to be documented. Just random strangers, and when people want to show resistance and yap, that's just waste of oxygen, cleansing, natural selection there. But not so much important people, but problematic people do need to be monitored, right? Because you never know, it might come in handy down the line. Did that in the Dylan Rounds case, we'll do the same here. And we'll continue to document changes in human behaviour. Because for such a thing like true crime, a case in which most people aren't directly involved in or caught up in, but somehow it seems to change and shape people drastically. Crazy. But welcome. If you're currently here in the live premiere, share your thoughts and reactions in the live chat box on the right hand side of the screen. And at any point, and for those watching on catch up, be sure to drop your comments and thoughts down below under the video. That'll help with spreading awareness and more. If you have any questions, any answers, additional discussions, theories, ideas, suggestions, just leave it down below and I can respond back later. I will try and catch up with some comments today as well, amongst other things. If you do want to catch up on recent coverage by me for the full playlist, that will be available top right corner where the eye symbol is up there, with some loose videos attached as well. If you do want to support the channel, below in the comments, pinned message will be some links to follow through with. The order of how we'll do things today, I want to focus straight in with the map, and then we'll apply to the comments. Here we are. So, as we're just hovering around near Terrell, the town, and the party house is just further down there on the highway, where do you even start when it comes to simplifying the case? Just going back to basics, put it that way. Just envision yourself that the case has just started. You don't know too much. There's some party footage that does exist. All the other noise and claims and rumours are non-existent. Where do you go? Do you reach out to party goers? Do they reach out to you? That's possible. That's probably what had happened to some extent, but cut short due to the nature of the general public that couldn't control themselves at times, where it felt like some partygoers were pushed away or had no choice but to keep quiet because social media may have ruined them, and in some ways social media may have ruined some of the general public as well. Okay, there's been a war, there's been a battle. At what cost? A lot of casualties. So how many people have got through that? How many people have reached the mountaintop? Exactly. And I don't think that's actually happened. Maybe one has reached the mountaintop. And as bleak as it is, as uncertain as it is when you've got a one-man army. Army as in what? A related page, not a chance. One-man presence to clear the thick, dense atmosphere. You've got a party, right? 4-day party. And yet it's always referred to from Saturday to Monday. That makes it a 3-day party. For Noah Presgrove, correct. But what about other people? Maybe Caden. More so Carter. More so Avery. Logan. Possibly Jack. Specifically those that were actually living at the house at the time. A 4-day party includes day before Saturday, Friday. And whilst Friday and crossing over to Saturday has significance, as in coinciding with, not far away, a dove hunting event, some of whom attended may have gone down to the party afterwards. No guarantee. But standalone events just happening around the same time, links can be made, I understand. But what I would like to know is, why is there such silence on Friday? Friday morning, Friday afternoon, evening, and so on. I can understand to an extent the reason why people are focused on Saturday, because it's about Noah Presgrove, the focus on him. And if Noah attended Saturday, that's the day you start with. And when you're doing the timeline of Noah, Saturday would be the beginning. But if you're doing an overall timeline from start to finish, you need to include Friday. If you're doing a timeline of other partygoers that attended, that were present there on the Friday, for example, then it needs to be included from start to finish. Why is there such a silence on Friday? As in, who was there during the party? In terms of the actual footage, videos and snaps, the very earliest Saturday evening, I believe, I've not seen any footage, no videos or photos from Friday. Part of me thinks, was Friday more so prepping, getting items together, cleaning, adjusting things, doing chores around the house, inviting, creating invitations, even though you wouldn't need to because it's all digital and done instant. I do find it interesting. What happened on Friday? Who was there? How did it go? Was there any alcohol on the Friday? Was there any reference or talks, discussions involving Noah Presgrove, even if he wasn't there? What was the atmosphere like as well? Anyone there Friday? Were they also there Saturday? Or is it just that those that were there Saturday weren't there the day before, weren't there days after? They were just there for one day or one night. It's interesting. And on Friday, people's whereabouts, what were they doing individually from all different types of partygoers or attendees? What were they doing before that? Just to fill in the gaps, the ideas, the feelings, the emotions, the thoughts, what was running through their heads, their minds, because none of them supposedly were anticipating what was to happen to Noah. Neither Noah, more likely. So, I believe articles do mostly refer to it as a 4-day party, a weekend-based party. Some might just refer to it as a 3-day party just because more attended on Saturday onwards, and Saturday and Sunday being the weekends, and Monday being a bank holiday celebration, Labor Day, so it's like an extended weekend, whereas Friday wasn't for most people in the county, in the state, possibly. But a party is a party, and whenever it started, it needs to be acknowledged. because there's not been any clarity by anyone to my knowledge, that's what makes it weird. We've heard it mentioned about those saying, oh yeah, they were at the party. I know they weren't at the party. Yeah, they were at the party. But, all over the place, really. And we've seen Caden Pressey clear it up at times, which made sense, more so in the earlier days compared to what he said in the later days, like his police interview, like with Travis Monson and Colton Newton not returning back, being told to leave Saturday night when returning because of the stolen alcohol. Okay. Didn't return back, ticks them off the list. You would think anybody else. I mean, there's that list by Caden Pressey saying who went, who left at certain times. No times, no days, no dates given by Caden, which is very unfortunate. Caden made a reference to Jack arguing with Carter, and Brylan Sweat leaving at the time of that argument, but as in what day, what time, and where, and if they returned, not really mentioned or explained by Caden, which is rather unfortunate. And why would Jack be having an argument with Carter? What about exactly? Because Carter was talking to other guys, Carter was flirting with other people, and Jack didn't like that. Or another reason, girl trouble, who knows? But once again, supposed arguments, supposed tension, just not documented or at least publicly released. The only stuff publicly released is positive stuff from the party. And if the party's all positive, well, that's all you can really show. I understand that. But if there is any negativity, that needs to be shown for the full picture and understanding. Yet we've not seen that. It is interesting, though, that when you look at the satellite imagery, whilst this isn't live at the time of the party, and it's more updated imagery since, just that feeling of aerial view, satellite imagery, looking down at the place. Looking down at a place at a certain time in which there was either a visitor or a person living there, because you can see that white car, that vehicle. As to whose it is, I don't know. And was it there during the party? You could argue it looks somewhat similar, but there's been references of a couple of different white cars on and off, and to be honest, depending which direction it takes, it could go off like a Brian Koberger situation, Idaho 4, with the, was it white Elantra or something? References about that, whether it was his, whether it was someone else's, where was it at a certain time, and so on. It seems like when BBC and some others recommended one night or so in Idaho, it was in relation to the Brian Koberger case, which I briefly covered on my channel at some point previous. And it's something to do with party goers and the damage caused, maybe through social media. If that is what I think it is, I think there was a TikToker that ended up accusing a former principal, or someone from the university being responsible of killing the college kids, which turned out to be false, not true, but it caused some issues. I don't know if anyone did get sued, but you can play a dangerous game there if you run your mouth too much and you don't use the correct wording. And in fairness, maybe the Noah Presgrove case has shown that with time, the way people speak in such bold ways. And we'll show a tiny bit of that later on, as I said, if you stick around. So, the core element is Friday is mostly forgotten, not talked about much. More importantly, people within the case don't seem to really want to acknowledge Friday for such a supposed insignificant day, because Noah did not attend on that day and Noah did not die on that day, but there seems to be more hush-hush about Friday than Monday, of all days. So that's interesting. Yeah, you could say, well, people don't really bother or talk about Friday because it's just irrelevant to the case. It's irrelevant to Noah. I can understand what people are getting at there, but if you're talking about a timeline, a complete one, you do need to include Friday. To be honest, let's be realistic. If you wanted to go a little bit further, you could say Saturday is irrelevant then. Sunday is irrelevant then. Whilst news articles, and I don't know if it was the autopsy report, but maybe more so news articles have stated that the side-by-side rollover happened Sunday night, and Noah Presgrove then got into an argument with his girlfriend, even though his girlfriend wasn't even at the party. So things like that, claims made, makes no sense whatsoever. That whilst we've not seen the raw evidence and the hard evidence, timestamps, footage of the side-by-side rollover, the after effects of it, especially on record, on snap or photo-wise, it seems to be a bit of a consensus that it did happen at some point Monday morning. And if most, if not all, events happened Monday morning leading up to Noah's death, you could write off Sunday then, right? But clearly people do focus in on Saturday, Shane, the slap. People focus in on Sunday, as in, I guess, the golf clubs being used and other things too. So people associate days which did not link to Noah's death but still find a level of relevance in the case and a level of importance. So I should be entitled and allowed to say, well, I think Friday is just as significant because it's the beginning of the end for Noah, unknowingly to him, and maybe unknowingly towards partygoers. As in, how were things set up and constructed? What, the death? No, just the party itself. Because party is a party, different age ranges celebrate differently. It's Avery's birthday, but I believe that was on the Monday. Not that everybody celebrates the same way, but you think if there was having a birthday party, there might be some cards, there might be some balloons, might be some presents, a cake. Did we see any of that? At least on the days of the footage, what we saw, no indication of it. But as said, people may celebrate differently. Maybe because the age that they are, they don't celebrate it the same way anymore. It can differ, of course. But when you look at that party, you don't associate it as Avery's birthday party. You more probably associate it as just a general, casual get-together party. In fairness, the only exception would be Monday, the day of Avery's birthday. 1:05 in the morning, when Brylan is going to slap Noah and Noah's asking for it. In the background, Avery does have a birthday girl banner on her, which I guess says birthday girl or happy birthday. So that's a clear indication there. Avery did also have a pink fluffy cowboy hat, I think. Whether that links to being a birthday girl or if it was just a prop that they had in, maybe there's no link. I'm just thinking with a pink banner, birthday banner, and then a pink cowboy hat, cowgirl hat, it would make sense. Though, I believe that was worn on the Saturday, but you could do an early birthday celebration. Especially if it's on a Monday of all days, you celebrate it a bit earlier beforehand. As I said, just the structure of the party itself. See, when it comes to simplifying it, it can also mean going deep, and that may seem like a bit of a juxtaposition, an extreme contrast. But within looking deep, you can find simplicity. It is possible. When you're going deep, you break it down a little bit, it makes it a little bit more bearable to understand, the dynamics of the party. At least with the footage, you just associate it with a normal party, not expecting what was to happen to Noah Presgrove after, unless through the unreleased footage it tells a different story which we just don't have access to at this moment in time. And will we ever? Depending how the case goes, like with the court situation, onwards past that point, it might be shown. As for the subpoena the family requested from OHP, was that truly granted? Did that go through? I think it was the 31st of July, the deadline. Could be wrong, or it might have been August. Either way, it's gone past that point now, so you'd hope that things are moving in the right direction. And if Noah's family is rather quiet, then maybe things are happening. Sometimes a wall of silence can be a wall of progress locked behind, which we don't see, but those on the inside do. And as long as there is movement on the inside, that's what matters most. So, in terms of the day of Noah's death, the build-up to it, how do we simplify that? Well, quite simple. Supposedly, 1:50 in the morning, you got Noah Presgrove, you got Jack Newton in the bathroom, selfie. Last known public and documented piece of material at the party involving Noah. The last known documented video that's been made public since would be 2:32 in the morning on Monday of Pepe Guam outside Porchway with Mikey Lair supposedly underneath the traffic barrel, and that did actually have a timestamp to it. The photo of Noah Presgrove and Jack Newton does not. There is no timestamp. There's no time. Nothing. So why do people say it's Monday? Why do people say it's 1:50 in the morning? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know where the context, the source comes from. Doesn't sound good, does it? But that's just being honest. What you'll find is in this case, people will get a bit lazy and will drop their guard a little bit, in which they'll repeat things, what others have said, what others have told them, but they will not give the source. Maybe because it's too lazy, maybe because it's too tiring, right? To keep saying, well, this person said this, that person said that. Maybe break it down to using initials instead as a form of negotiation. I mean, at least what I try to do is when I do make references and points and statements and claims or rumours and so on, I refer to where I heard it from, or more so, I try and refer to where it originally came from. If I didn't, it would sound like I'm saying it. What good does that do for me? It doesn't. It puts a target on me. It gives people a reason to critique and attack me. So you'd think common sense, other people would give sources and re-quote where it came from to protect themselves. But it seems like people don't want to protect themselves, or they don't anticipate what can happen. Maybe if you're new to true crime, you wouldn't anticipate, but if you're seasoned to it, you have to try and cover your back, or at least make an effort to do so. Anyway, beside that, people like, for example, Justin, mentioning in between 3 in the morning to about 3:15, there was a blackout or some kind of social media silence, no post whatsoever. I do find it interesting that specific range from 3 to 3:15, and yet Noah walked away at 3:30. So even if there was a blackout, a silence in between before Noah had walked away, Noah was still supposedly alive. At the end of the day, you could reinforce that more if publicly the shower footage was released, if there was teabagging footage released, if after that, when Noah's walking away or just a bit before, if any of that was documented, photo taken or video recorded, and it showed the time associated with Noah at the party and alive and still somewhat okay, you can put the case across and say, well, look, there's the hard evidence. But realistically, okay, regardless of it being an accident or foul play murder, reality is, at least for the general public, most part of them, have they seen, and that applies to me as well, have we seen footage, photos, videos of Noah Presgrove after 1:50 in the morning on Monday? Yes or no? Some people could say they have, with the shower video, claimed that it was once uploaded on Facebook in the past and removed quick. As in, the motive behind all that, weird, why would anyone do it, and who would? Who is in possession of that video? Was it a party goer? Was it someone else, a friend? Why they think it's a good idea to post it and share it in the first place? It's a shame no one took a screenshot of it just to memorise and refer to in the future, but I guess if it's in the early stages, you're not anticipating it, you think it just remains as it is, but things don't last. That's for sure. They do not last. So you got to keep your eyes open, be prepared, be alert just in case. You never know, you might need it in the future. So beside what some people may have seen, most people haven't really seen any footage, any photos of Noah Presgrove at the party or anywhere else 1:50 in the morning onwards beyond. So when we're told from party goers to anybody else in between that, yeah, Noah Presgrove did this, then he went here, So side-by-side rollover, then the shower, then teabagging, then eating food, then going to the bed, the debacle of trying to sleep in one of the two girls' beds, being denied, rejected, then walking away frustrated, maybe calling Avery out, a verbal fight following on from that maybe, and then Noah walking away to cool off, heading east, which is down this way, east, however far he went down the dirt road. All of that may have happened. Also, all of that may have not happened. And it's not about just going against it completely in a disruptive way, but just in an honest way. If there is no hard evidence publicly, it's hard for the general public to believe in it. And when there's a lot of instability, and on top of that, confusion, possible backstabbing, and other messy situations in between, it gets to that point where it creates trust issues. And if you've got trust issues with people or someone, it's not healthy. It's not a good place to be. Always on edge, always extra thinking, always questioning, self-doubting, second guessing, and never too certain, never too sure. So if any evidence is said, claims made from horse's mouth, but it's not shown with absolute hard evidence material, you don't want to get your hopes up to it. You don't want to become too influenced by it. You'll probably just be desensitized and be like, yeah, okay, right. That's where it is. That's the unfortunate nature of true crime and true crime communities. Desensitization does happen. Short term, long term, slow process. Come across groups, communities, even within the case, get your hopes up, then they spit you out afterwards, and then it backfires and it turns out not to be true. A lie, a rumour, poorly worded. Then what are you meant to think? Where do you go from there? You put your trust in something, you put your trust and hope in someone or some people, and then they let you down and disappoint you. What's the point, right? What are you left with then? Where do you go? That's just true crime, but it's a microcosm of many things, right? A case specifically like this happened with Dylan Rounds, happens here. I'm not going to be influenced like how other people are because I've seen it happen already in the past. I've seen where people's hopes get up and then it's dropped. I've seen it in Noah Presgrove where they said by the end of the week, there's going to be a change, there's going to be an outcome, there's going to be a big change, breaking news, whatever. Never happened. Parts in true crime. Announcement, oh, we're back, 2025, big news, big things ahead. Did it happen? Publicly, not from the looks of it. On the sideline, there was attempts to try and silence me in some way, which is a bit unnecessary. And we'll get to that a bit later, just as a bit of a quick reflection. So, that's simplifying what to expect, right? Simplifying how things can go in the case. Being realistic with what did happen, what could have happened. Those that were there, by common sense, that have got nothing to hide with what they say, that should be true. Simply saying Noah had the side-by-side rollover at this time, but Noah Presgrove had a shower at this time, should be simple, should be straightforward, but it's not, is it? Because along the way, we've not got clear answers, we didn't get instant responses, and even from different people, how it varied, it just wasn't clear, it wasn't concise, it wasn't consistent, bit all over the place. But to be honest, at least from my own eyes and ears, I didn't really see many people talking about the timing of events. Beside Caden Pressey, and we'll just go down to ground level just to change it up visually. Beside Caden Pressey, I've not seen anyone else mention a time or an estimated time of the side-by-side rollover. Caden was the one to say it happened, or just after it happened, was at 2:40 in the morning. A great level of skepticism there, because 2 minutes later, Caden did wake up at the party when Alicia called and saw Noah just inside casually with Jack and Jasmine near beer pong table or playing beer pong. At least how the story's gone, just after the rollover, Noah was then taken to the shower, the bathroom area. Well, from what Caden Pressey said and the timing of it and when he woke up, there was no urgency there for that. So likely there's a bit of an overlap. One's right, one's wrong. Maybe what Caden Pressey saw is true in terms of what he described, but the time of it, the timestamp, wasn't a true timestamp of real time of when it took place, but more so a timestamp of when someone took a screenshot and overlay of it at a later point. So it didn't give the true time. That's very, very possible, and it has happened already in other situations. So you put aside the timing, really, I've not seen anyone give a time as to when the rollover took place. And would anyone actually know? Well, those that were there to witness it, those that were there to record it, and even if you had to estimate and cut some time off, if you only recorded the bit where it was rolled back over, check the time for that, and then work backwards. Was it 10, 15 minutes before that, maybe, when it took place? That's one way you could figure it out. But does anyone want to figure it out? Has anyone made an attempt to figure it out? If the event isn't that important to Noah's death, then maybe some people think, oh, well, what's the point? We don't need to bother then. We'll just write it off. But when you tie in line the possibilities of multiple events leading up to Noah's death, as some have suggested recently, and more so an expert in the past, a doctor that, in one of the news articles, that suggested that the side-by-side rollover could have caused internal injury with Noah, that maybe a broken rib may have pierced a lung, an organ within, which then led to a small filling up of blood within, which could have caused Noah some serious problems slowly, not noticeable, not by the naked eye, and maybe not by Noah himself because of adrenaline and alcohol at the time, continuing on at the party, and slowly, maybe slowly, killing him. And then other events following up, walking off at 3:30. Even if Noah Presgrove simply walked away, as in not down the highway, but stopped somewhere down there, down the dirt road. Even if Noah hadn't got into a vehicle, right? If there was any internal injury and Noah had distanced himself from the party, he's basically isolated himself, made him more vulnerable than what he was before, vulnerable to the elements, vulnerable to anyone that may want to kill him or have a word, vulnerable to his own health. If there's something wrong with you, health-related, and you distance yourself from others, as in the moment, if anything goes wrong, who's going to be there to catch your fall? Who's going to be there to help you? See, was Noah Presgrove the type of person to shrug things off? If Noah Presgrove got hurt or injured, would he not make a big deal about it? Or would he be like, hey, look everyone, look at this bruise, look at this cut? What type of person was Noah Presgrove? Was he boisterous about it? Did he keep his mouth shut? Did he not make a big deal because it wasn't a big fuss? Was Noah Presgrove an overly awkwardly independent person that wouldn't let on to other people at the party if he was injured, if he was hurt? That if something was wrong with Noah internally, and maybe Noah may have knew about it, he decided not to tell anyone because he didn't want to ruin the mood of the party. He didn't want to worry anyone because Noah cares about other people. But that's the thing. When you care about other people, you put other people first before your own needs. You distance and isolate, disconnect yourself. If you have a problem or an issue and you deal with it by yourself, if you do disconnect as in distance-wise physically, like how Noah may have done as in walking away, if anything went wrong, you can't really go calling for help, especially if you're incapacitated or unable to move. And if you don't have your phone with you, then what can you do? There might be some times where a person may have the phone on them, but will they use it? Or do they not want to be a burden upon someone? See, this is what I mean. You can go so much deeper than you could possibly think, and it can still be simplified with common sense. You know, the characteristics of Noah Presgrove, the type of person that he was, mentioned by Justin Roy to Caden Pressey as in positive, athletic, welcoming, appreciated, popular, funny guy, prankster, and so on. But was Noah Presgrove ever a private individual? Was Noah Presgrove an independent individual that pushed others aside? As in, if he needed to do something or if he was putting up with something, he wouldn't share it. So if Noah Presgrove was at the party, if anything was wrong, would Noah share that with someone? I said, it's the process of trying to break it down and understand. It's possible to put the argument across and say, well, with Noah Presgrove, because from what Caden Pressey says, this is not based on facts, this is based on hearsay, with what I'm getting at next, to put the argument across, just so you know. With Caden Pressey saying that Noah yelled at Jack because Jack supposedly flirted with Noah's girlfriend behind his back, who wasn't even at the party, as in Noah's girlfriend. Noah has every right, based on that, to yell at his best friend. It's not nice. Being screwed over, stabbed in the back, betrayal, and so on. Can lead to all kinds of feelings, not nice. But then, you know, that's Noah expressing himself, giving a piece of his own mind towards his best friend, not holding back. Right, so open about it, open about a problem, sharing, describing, explaining, maybe telling best friend how it made him feel and so on in the moment. Hence why, supposedly from what Jack says, they cried, they hugged, they made up, and it was okay in the end. Maybe, maybe not. Only one side to the story there. The person that's alive on the receiving end, telling it, Noah Presgrove's not present here to tell the other side, for that consistency, which is unfortunate. You got the other claim by people in the community stating that at some point Noah Presgrove asked Brylan Sweat, do you have my back? What does that mean? Was that said out of context? Did it mean something else? Brylan Sweat was the one to slap Noah when Noah asked for it on Monday, 1:05 in the morning. Was it before or after that? Was it just before Noah walking away when asking Brylan, do you have my back? What did it actually mean? Do you have my back in case I get in trouble? Do you have my back when things go south and there is a fight? There is imminent danger? Was Noah Presgrove making sure that he had a backup in case anything went wrong? But this is the thing. If that was the case, if any of it was true, you got to look at it this way. In life, whether humans apologize for something or if humans ask someone for something, which implies a level of foreshadowing what could come next, what's about to happen. In other ways, it could imply a level of self-doubt. It could also imply a level of an uneasy feeling, as in what can happen. Depending on what justifies or links on to cause that reaction or response or being in danger, sometimes the individual might display a sign of guilt, whether that be through apologising, whether that be through asking someone, do you have my back? As in, do you have my back? As in one's head. Something's about to go down. I might be in danger. And why am I in danger? Maybe it's something that I've done. Maybe it's something that I've said beforehand. And now it's going to explode. That's one way of looking at it. But it's not always going to be the person's fault. They might blame themselves. And then other times they might think they're not to blame whatsoever, but they actually are. As for Noah Presgrove, is Noah to be blamed for anything before his death? Was there anything that Noah Presgrove did wrong? Not in terms of justifying the true outcome of Noah, but to justify how things could change up if anyone was responsible. Why would anyone need or want in the moment to hurt Noah? What did Noah Presgrove do wrong to trigger a reaction from someone or some people? That's the other way you simplify it, you know, in terms of the motives. And you could say, well, how can you come to a concept of a motive if it's purely and truly accidental? Well, I understand that, but I'm basing it on the concept of murder and the concept and claim of Noah asking to have, if someone's got his back, implied as if Noah is in danger, will Brylan be there to help? which is a bit of a contrast that, because it was mentioned online social media, maybe as a rumour suggested by Justin Roy, but without the full context showing, as in a mention to Brylan Sweat and Travis Monson once being labelled and accused of being responsible for covering up or moving Noah's body on a truck and dropping it off, such as with the highway. If any of that was true, well, then it just wouldn't really link well with when Noah supposedly asked Brylan, "Do you have my back?" It wouldn't pair, would it? Interesting. Now, Noah Presgrove, a wrestler. Does that mean you can defend yourself? Well, to some extent. But look, the theme of alcohol is a major part in the case. Does it justify the true death? Does it all link to the death of Noah? There's aspects of it that do link, right? Beside the who handed out the alcohol. See, look. This is the reality. Let's just say everybody was of legal age and onwards. There was no underage drinking. If everybody was of the correct age to drink, I guess there wouldn't be the same push for social hosting laws and all of that. For most part of it, I guess. Unless there's the exception of the firearms being present on site with alcohol, which could be a problem, unless that's a separate offence. But if people were satisfied that everybody was above age of drinking and it was all okay, are people going to be drinking responsibly? Likely not. People are probably going to be still getting drunk. And whether you're drunk, to whatever degree you're drunk, and the same people present, probably the same outcome still. So beside the age factor, whether you're underage or over the age, you're probably not going to be drinking responsibly, especially when you're at a party with other people around your age. You'll be joking, laughing, you're just going with the flow, being a little bit reckless, letting your hair down, along the lines of that, right? So alcohol is a major part within the case, even when you put social hosting aside, right? That's to simplify it. That's to highlight the importance of alcohol, the factor of it, not just with Noah, but other people too at the party. If everybody is of the correct age for drinking, likely same outcome for Noah Presgrove. At the end of the day, alcohol can be dangerous. You get alcohol poisoning upon oneself. Alcohol being given to somebody else who's not used to it, and then it can cause health issues on the spot. Alcohol, in which it can turn a calmish person into a reckless, wild animal, maybe even become a danger to themselves and also a danger towards other people. That alcohol can make people volatile, agitated. It can make people get easily frustrated and petty and more argumentative. And if there's others there as well that react the same way, adding fuel to the fire, it can cause many problems. And granted, out of all the party footage, what we've seen, alcohol didn't seem to have a negative effect on most people there from what we've seen public. But who knows onwards, right? And other things in between in which an event may have taken place, but it wasn't documented or recorded, like Mikey Lair fish hooking Noah's mouth and Noah biting Mikey Lair's finger. Small event, but a little bit of physicality, a little small bit of tenseness, driven directly through alcohol, maybe. But I think, in fairness, alcohol or not, you can put the argument across and say, well, people in the case community may not be drinking alcohol at the time, and yet there's still tenseness there and fights back and forth, maybe worse than the party itself. That really does speak volume. Maybe I'll get to that shortly. So with Noah Presgrove walking away at 3:30, right, then what? Well, it's open to interpretation, that's what I said. You can think of it as murder and foul play. You know, most likely, if it's going to be murder, there's probably going to be a form of foul play. If it's an accident, is there going to be guaranteed forms of foul play? No. There are still chances of foul play, but not as guaranteed as the murder outlook. Because if it's an accident, what have you got to hide? As in, more so if it's an accident which you're completely oblivious to and unaware of, and an example of that being if Noah was in the back of a truck, a vehicle, pickup. fell out when trying to stand up when the vehicle was moving, unknown to the driver passenger, falls out, hits the ground. Oh, does that cause all injuries? No. But then maybe finished off by a vehicle passing on by, which even they themselves are possibly reckless, clueless. Any drunk driving, who knows? Could involve the theme of alcohol once again. But if there was a secondary event such as Noah being clipped, hit in some way by a vehicle, another one, should have been more chances of that person should have maybe taken a bit more action or a bit more consideration. What, straight up in the moment? Maybe not, but what about a bit later? I guess just as a general rule of thumb, if you got Chris Pyatt, remember the general public that was driving down the highway, somewhere down it, hit something, thought it could have been a hog. Later, I guess, because of hearing the news of Noah Presgrove, thought possibly responsible, decided to hand himself in or contact police and then eventually cleared and it was okay. If that's all how it was and how it ended, well then did the right thing. But if there's somebody else that was driving, like how Tim Daniels suggests as a theory, a current one, then that's someone that may have hit something and felt a bump in some way, probably should have contacted police afterwards, especially if they've heard of Noah Presgrove and where Noah was found roughly. You'd think they could reflect back like Chris did and think, oh, well, I did hit something, I did hear a bump, so maybe I should, reach out to police. But from the looks of it, they wouldn't have done so because it didn't lead to any conclusion or follow-up or any additional news updates. So that could imply a level of hit and run, but it would mean that the person would have to have been somewhat conscious of what they've hit in some way at the time and then just decide to neglect and move on. If they were completely oblivious and just did not think, was not quite there with it, it could be excused, but still there would need to be justice. I mean, that's the one where you simplify it. Whether you think it's murder, whether you think it's accidental, I think one thing most people would agree on is there still needs to be justice for Noah Presgrove in some way. And that in some way someone needs to be held somewhat accountable, even if it wasn't done with intent, even if it was done purely accidentally and clueless, aimless, recklessly, and so on. The part where it can make it difficult if it was just a standalone event, as in people not coming forwards, and how the general public could interpret that as keeping quiet and levels of suspicion, specific event, singular only, and it's just a concept that if Noah was in the back, the bed of a pickup truck resting, Texas boys, for example, left shortly after. If so, passenger driver got in, driving down the highway, completely oblivious that Noah's in the back. And if Noah did fall out of that vehicle and died that way, specifically, for example, even if Noah was finished off afterwards, if the initial death was from falling out of the vehicle to cause some of the injuries at least, which was death and fatal, then does that make the passenger and driver responsible for that? How could they control it when they didn't even know about it in the first place? It makes it tricky and awkward. And for those possible individuals present at the time, people of interest, they simply wouldn't know or feel responsible or even reach out because they just wouldn't know that Noah was in the back of that truck at that moment, at that time. So they would have no recollection of it because there was no indication of it in the first place. That's why if no one was to speak out, it might be because those that were caught up in it just genuinely didn't know what was happening to Noah at the time. Some people could say it's a weak argument, but it's just only one side. There's other perspectives as well. And I kind of already mentioned that, as in, if someone had felt that they've hit something, run over something, they should have done what Chris supposedly did. But at least from how the conversations go online, didn't really happen. So, you let me know where your thoughts are at right now in the case. The concept of switching and changing the cause of death, it is what it is. What else can you do? You've got to be realistic. What else can you do in the moment whilst there's a wall of silence people go back and forth. So I said I was going to refer back to the alcohol situation. What I'm getting at is alcohol can cause changes in behaviour of people, and not always for the better, sometimes for the worst. The more people at the party, the higher chances that at least one of them could react badly to alcohol. And if in the presence of Noah Presgrove, and if met with the same energy, could be tense, something could go wrong. But it's that what if, it's that it might not, that we absolutely know, if that makes sense. Because we've not seen hard evidence of alcohol being associated with a negative bad event at the party, because most of the supposed bad events aren't actually recorded or documented, or at least posted public, which is very unfortunate. Was it done on purpose by people not to record the negative moments at the party? Or is it that the negative moments at the party are held by police because it holds more value and it justifies, or it links onto the murder aspect? I don't know. There's quite a bit of uncertainty there. But what I will say is, when it comes to the community, the general public, who aren't even really impacted by the case, because, not to be rude, but it doesn't really concern them to some extent, because they're not the victim's family, they're not the friends of Noah. For most part of it, it's just general public coming together, interested in a case, for most part of it. Yes, you might get some exceptions where a person briefly knew Noah in real life, had some interactions, okay. But vast majority of people wouldn't know who Noah was before the death, weren't around them or the family, and so on. What I'm getting at is, beside those emotional connections and overly emotional behaviour by some, you don't need alcohol to be a deciding factor for chaos. You don't always need alcohol to be an enabling factor, right? See, when it comes to within the case, people think that alcohol may have explained or linked on with the aspect of Noah Presgrove being killed. An argument, confrontation, verbal, on the spot, something happening earlier, maybe linking on with Noah calling Avery a fat beep, getting revenge there, tense confrontation, vocally, verbally, face to face, anything like that. And the alcohol adds that enabling factor in reactionary behaviour. If someone was to be called out or hear a word, hear a conversation through text, face to face, how they interpret it when sober can greatly differ to how they may interpret it when drunk. And so can the reactions. More reactionary, more tense, more aggressive, more petty, more frustrated, more aggravated when drunk. Any matching energy at the party with others can amplify it. So a verbal disagreement can lead to a verbal fight, can then escalate to a physical altercation and beyond, whether it's planned or not, whether there's a true outcome in one's mind or not, if it goes too far, and so on. When you look at the true crime community as a whole, and more focused on Noah Presgrove, for example, general public communicating with other general public online, and for most part of it, sober. And yet look at the chaos. Look at the tension. Look at the frustrations. Look at the verbal attacks. Look at the, in the eyes of some people, nasty behaviour and words expressed, and the treatment, the attacks, the harassment, the threats. All of that going on. It just goes to show that as much as people like to push alcohol being involved in Noah's death as a big factor, as intense aggression, escalation, the same thing has happened within the community on a bigger scale with more people, and it didn't even include alcohol. So just take that into consideration there. Beside that, I think we should move on now to the comment section just to catch up there and reveal, or at least naturally show, the true colours present now within some out there. It just so happens for once there's been a bit more activity in a recent time with the comment section and the return of some people, which we'll get to. Let's just start from the bottom first of all. So at the time I did my video, because of the sensitive nature, the topic, the theme, the title, I said hopefully outsiders understand the structure, language of the video, the importance of it. One is simply observing, documenting what's been said. Just like how I did in the Dylan Rouse case, you never know, it may come in handy in the future, and that's what we're doing again today. Now, welcome to Emmanuel. Take in mind, Emmanuel is new to the channel, so they're not going to be aware of everything that's happened, and I just simply responded back saying, referring to situations such as when there is absolute hard evidence and it's crystal clear the situation, yet other humans somehow manage to go against it and make up excuses and just deny. So extensively in previous cases, and at the same time got abused for it. Those are the conditions which I can apply here and could happen in the future. And Emmanuel said, totally respect that. Glad you're talking on all facts and not just those that are fed to you from a certain someone to insinuate a certain narrative. That's a positive. As said, if there is a certain narrative or a theory or an idea, it can be looked at, providing it's tamed and controlled within reason. As long as correct wording is used, it can't really go that wrong. But how many people on this earth actually make a conscious effort to explain themselves clear, word things clearly? That's the problem. Sometimes I feel like I'm just on that mountain top. Spencer. My opinion to fit the family narrative, I hope not. Right. Gibby. Well, Brookbounds Carter, it appears you have been successful in spreading more lies against the family. Blame the victim strategy in an effort to divert attention. Brooke said, do tell what I've lied about. Show me where I've victim blamed. Emmanuel says, hi Brooke, I wanted to respond to your question. I think victim shaming from yourself happened lots once when you said that Noah's family don't want certain things exposed. In some way, it wasn't, well, depends how you look at it. Be said on the grieving family who lost that young man, your comment came as threatening from what I saw. The thing is, yes, it can be considered a threat, a warning, that comment by Brooke, but upon reading it a few times, it wasn't so much what Brooke was going to do, it's more so as a messenger passing on a threat from Stevie Howard, when you look at the language and wording. I cannot screenshot here, I have that screenshot, also calling Noah's kind aunt a liar multiple times. I've seen you say some very ugly things about Noah himself too. You genuinely, in my opinion and my view as an outsider, think that you're being very ugly towards the victim who lost his life so young and his family multiple times. You also upset Noah's big sister, I guess Madison, to the point she reacted to you as you said no one cared for Noah. Also, you said that Noah's family have deep hate and jealousy towards Stevie and her family. That's so sickening. I feel you're very loyal and a good person to have to fight on your side, but you have been so evil, and a mother of a young man that you are, you really should not be so cruel. Imagine your baby being found the way Noah was. How would you feel? It's tragic. So that's what Emmanuel had to say. Valerie, welcome to the channel. The Hillbilly Okie party members may think they can wipe away stuff, but it's still there just like with a computer. Right. We got IX. Why has Partners in True Crime run away from the case? That's a rat in the cheese factory. An invisible force has pushed them out. Well, at the start of 2025, they did say about making a return back to the case, but publicly they never did. They might be doing stuff in the background, who knows? Gibby says they haven't, as in they've not run, I guess. IX, they didn't follow up on anything they promised. 0, I haven't done anything since you got misinformation. Oh, and they haven't done anything, yeah. My response to what IX was saying was the last thing that Partners in True Crime did publicly in the case, well, to some extent, was file a false copyright takedown on one of my videos simply because I used some of their footage whilst giving credit and being positive towards them. That Partners in True Crime also believed that I was being negative about them, yet I never was. Weird behaviour. using 15 seconds or less of footage or clip to, just use evidence and point out a quote, point out a mention by Caden in an interview when getting a point across. And Partners in True Crime decided to report as copyright. So that was unexpected and unfortunate. Now, as you know, ever since I've not used any more footage from Partners in True Crime because I don't want to risk it. Okay? It's annoying because there might be some times where I need to show evidence of what Caden Pressey said, of what Justin Roy said, but I can't. So I have to say it in my words based on what I've listened to. You can hear it yourself, of course, but as you can see, it could be if you didn't know about it in the first place and you didn't hear it from the horse's mouth. If I tell you, you could think it's hearsay, and I understand. But I can't show you the hard evidence. You'd have to look for it yourself. Because if I include it in my videos, I'll get a copyright claim immediately, probably. So I'm prevented from being able to do that. It's a bit silly. So when hard evidence needs to be provided, I can't provide hard evidence because I'll get a copyright claim. How sad. How pathetic. But whilst I mention that's the last thing that Partners in True Crime did to my knowledge, Justin Roy responded with, Warlike Wrath, you're negative about anyone wanting the truth. You have literally made a mockery out of Noah's death. How have I made a mockery of Noah's death when I've been the one to cover the case constantly on YouTube and to stick by in a quite serious way for most part of it, like with my straight face, with my monotone voice? I think that's quite serious. I mean, yeah, there's other true crime creators out there that will put makeup on the face, smile and laugh whilst talking about the death of someone. For most part of it, I'm not doing that. Even if some people do falsely claim that I wear fake eyelashes, that I wear lipstick, that I've got a wig on, breast enlargements, and so on. Not much I can do about that. It's just weird points made by people. Okay? It's a weird point that Justin says, claiming that me, Warlike Wrath, that I am negative for anyone that is wanting the truth on the case. That makes no sense whatsoever. For someone to be negative on others wanting the truth makes it sound like that they don't want the truth coming out. So in other words, what Justin is basically suggesting here is that Warlike Wrath doesn't want the case to be solved and doesn't want justice for Noah Presgrove. That is quite a bold claim to make, Justin. It's very reckless. And the mention of making a mockery out of the case, Justin, you sound like Jan Fiorillo and Pam Feldman Garrison 2.0. Same language, same buzzwords. You need to do better. My response to Justin was, firstly, it's your, as in spelt there, not your. Secondly, your point is completely invalid in regard to the conversation at hand, because the actual conversation at hand is to do with what's happened to Partners in True Crime, activity levels. They've gone quiet. And I said, well, the last thing that they did, which I'm aware of, they tried taking me down. And Justin says, you're only negative because people want the truth. How does that even link in with the conversation what we're having? Justin, you make no sense whatsoever. You're bringing into a brand new conversation with one that does not gel with the previous. That's just incompetent. Justin's response was, nah, you know exactly what I meant. You are very biased to the highest bidder. And that's sad. I think you meant well. Try to spell Justin before you start going on. It's not M-E-N-T-E. No. But then chased the money, in my opinion. So you make a strong claim, first of all, and then you end your sentence, or part of your sentence, with, in my opinion. That's not a good look, Justin. You've undone everything that you've said. To word it with a level of confidence, with bold, strong words, that Warlike Wrath is this and that Warlike Wrath is one of the most biased individuals out there, especially when it comes to monetary gain. And by the way, that's just my opinion. Your opinion can mean absolute jack shit. It can. That your opinion could be considered irrelevant or outdated. That your opinion does not link on to what everybody else may be thinking. Right? An opinion is an opinion at the end of the day. And it means that there is no fact nor hard evidence present. It's just an opinion. And the pointing with the fingers sounds like self-projection, Justin. And Justin says, nah, you chased the money like a coward. All I'm seeing is a lot of buzzwords, Justin, and that is it. Chasing money like a coward. Why do I need to chase anything or anyone when I've got my channel, I do my videos, and then people come to me? And then people, if they want to, naturally support the channel, not just because of the case, but because of the channel and onwards, as a means of entertainment, as a means of education, learning, as a means of a distraction, helping people in their day-to-day life. For whatever reason, people who may give a super chat or a super thanks, it's called a thanks for a reason. A personal choice made by them because they wanted to, not because I asked them, not because they reached out and said, I will give you this amount if you change the story. Never has happened. Neither has it in the past. So, unless there's a level of jealousy here, or what, it's a bit unusual. For you, Justin, to call me a coward when you yourself, Justin, if you have messed up at times or you've made a comment and then it's quickly been deleted or removed afterwards, that's cowardly behaviour, in a way. So, walking, talking, hypocrite there. Furthermore, if I, Warlike Wrath, am such a coward, then explain to me why I'm still here covering the case when I'm treated the way I am at times, and on top of it, I'm threatened, and on top of it, threatened with being sued, and on top of it, threatened by others with sexual deviant activity and behaviour, and on top of it, continuously harassed with deep fake AI technology videos done without my consent. I've been on the receiving end of a range of stuff, and yet I'm still standing covering this case. Most people probably wouldn't stand for it, and especially when a case is dying, move on to the next hottest thing. Most of the people might think, you know what, I deserve better. I deserve to be treated better in life, so I'm going to say goodbye to this and move on. Would that be considered cowardly behaviour in your outlook, Justin? Probably not. It could be seen as people may have a certain value or worth in which they think if it crosses the line that they don't deserve or they feel like they should be put in that place or that situation to protect themselves, to get away from chaos or drama. If it gets too stressful, people may back down, people may move on to a different case. People are sometimes forced out of a community, which is unfortunate. Yet despite what I have gone through and experienced on and off, I'm still here covering the case, and like I was with previous cases, did the same thing. So I think the amount of times that I've been attacked or insulted in different ways, and I'm still here making videos despite it all, is that really cowardly behaviour? It makes no sense whatsoever. But likely more so Justin is referring to the concept of jumping at money, which is cowardly behaviour. And once again, it's not jumping or any movement whatsoever because it's people, the general public, randomly at times that supports the channel. There's no guarantee it's going to happen. It's always a surprise when I see it. I don't expect it, personally, right? And most of the time it's the message across as in, thank you for covering, thank you for still being here, a thank you message attached with a level of support, which is much appreciated. It's not that deep, Justin, but you're trying to make it deeper than what it is, which is unfortunate. Gibby, so transparent, you fool no one, whatever that means. Dark side, okay. So, do I read this out? I don't know, because will it give ammunition for other people to say it's been pushed? If you want to read it out yourself, you can do so. Let's at least look at the comments and the response. I'm only being cautious with how I go about this because I know people will try and turn it. Justin said in response to that comment above, so I know what you're trying to do here, and it's ridiculous and vile. So I literally did a public podcast of where I was and who my family was. Right. Is that partisan true crime? And after 2 years, don't you think Ellie would have questioned me or my family by now? That geofence would have proven or disproven this by now. Noah was good to my kids, and whoever did this to him or lied about the truth should get charged to the fullest, and I don't care who it is. Yes, I was at the Red River on the Warwick side with about 25 family members. None of that side of the family was at the party. This is dumb to even say, but this is how you people are, and it's sickening. Right, okay. This person, trust me when I say 90% of us reading this rolled our eyes and see right through. Okay. But then Justin feels the need to include my name within this, even though, I wasn't aware of this comment, right? So that's typical. But Justin says, nope. And Warlike Wrath just feeds off of it. How am I feeding off it then, in this case? He actually encourages it. How do I encourage other people to do such actions and leave comments? If you actually listen to my videos, Justin, I would say that I would hope to think that people can control themselves appropriately, as in not having to hold their hands. And maybe some people can't control themselves, and it leads to such things. But it's not to do with me holding their hand, it's me being on my channel. I can understand Justin being a bit uptight because, if you think of the army page, kicking and blocking people left, right and centre, when things are said, bad stuff and all that, when there's more freedom of speech elsewhere, I guess Justin Roy gets triggered by that. But Justin needs to remember that despite his behaviour and his words and his bold claims and his false claims and his damaging words, that he should be grateful that he still has a platform to be able to talk on, such as here. Because if Justin acted the way he did elsewhere, likely he would be kicked, blocked, removed and banned, and yet he isn't here. You should be grateful, Justin, at least, so you can still defend yourself. But Justin does say it's bike and disgusting, and only points to guilt, in my opinion. It's bike. Who is a bike? Is that bike a suspect? What do you mean, Justin, by a bike? The village bike? Confused. Beside that, at the end of the day, they know what happened to Noah. It's sad they won't tell the truth about that morning. Well, as I said, a theory could suggest if Noah had walked away, got into the back of a vehicle, people got into that vehicle unaware Noah was in the back, and they're the only ones that would have the key and knowledge to what happened to Noah. But if they don't know, how would you expect anyone else to know? And the reason why they may not know is because if they didn't know Noah was in the back of the vehicle, they wouldn't know, right? That's just one example only. But if that example, that cause of death was true, you couldn't expect them to know based on that. But if you're basing it off murder, well then, yes, people would know then and not being honest. Joyce, as much as I don't care for Justin, but I don't believe Justin went anywhere near that party. I mean, me personally, do I think that Justin Roy went anywhere near the party? No, I don't think that whatsoever. I get people being scared for their life, but I will not make accusations or believe he had association to that party, other than his nephews being there. As for Justin, you stated on the podcast where you were and only stated you had nephews there. If Justin had any affiliation to that party, I believe he would have been questioned long ago or considered a suspect, which he hasn't. Sorry, only way I'll believe, along with others, is solid proof. And there's no party footage of Justin on camera either. Taco, yes, I rarely even watch the videos anymore. Oh, as in this person here. Now, I don't know if the profile picture is of them, but I do believe that this individual is... Well, let's just read the comment first before I continue. I come and read the comments to see if anything new has been talked about. I usually get about 1.5 minutes in before I close it, due to all of them kissing each other's arses, while still trying to convince everyone of their ignorance in the comments. Like I said, 95% of us can see through their BS. 95%. That's a coincidence, that figure given, because Justin Roy was batting on about 95% of people believing this or that in regard to a poll vote of a closed Facebook group which does not represent the entire population of the human race. Very, very coincidental. That's probably an influencer effect there. Taco says, they make it very obvious what they're trying to do. They seriously need a psychological examination for the mental issues. They clearly have. As far as Warlike Wrath, I'm sure he notices too by the amount of viewers that have quit watching. That alone should tell him something. The reality is, Taco, let's just say I covered videos from the correct side, okay? You know, the people that you look up to and get on well with. If I continued doing videos from that aspect and I didn't branch out and I just remained like tunnel vision, honestly, statistically, the numbers would still be low. You got to be realistic, Taco. The Noah Presgrove case heats up in the early stages and when breaking news comes about. The longer the case drags on for, people just naturally lose interest. That's just the truth. That's just the reality. There are videos on my channel in recent time here and there which have performed somewhat well. Just as well as in the early days when I was covering it from the army page, right? So you can't make that claim of statistics have dropped just because Warlike Wrath is covering it from the dark side, for example, and then everybody else has given up or had enough and moved on. People naturally have lost interest in the case and moved on to other things because it's going nowhere. It shows. There are people in general that have commented here and there and said, sorry, I've been so busy. Oh, I've been covering other cases. I've been looking at other cases since because it's going nowhere. I'm getting bored. It happens. Everybody has a lifespan, a shelf cycle. Everybody has a level of stamina. And once the tank has been emptied, well then people may need a rest, a break and move on. Okay, you might still get the pages dedicated with regular people, but it still be lower compared to how it was in the earlier days. It's just how it is. And then you got just, finally the person that said it's just starting drama and problems. Okay. K3, I'm new here, welcome. Do you cover any other cases? I do so, and there they are. Christine Passe Parker, Kenny Veach, Dylan Rounds, Rebecca Zahau, you know, was silenced in that, and mysteries in general. So I have covered other stuff. Now, despite all of that, Justin Roy then proceeds to say to me, keep my name out of your mouth. You, Warlike Wrath, and the majority of your supporters are vile pieces of shit and have made a mockery out of Noah's death. And it's sad. Think about the things you say and cover and look at the source. There's definitely a cover-up here, and you'll see. The problem is, Justin, on and off in recent time, post news of the wrongful death lawsuit, I have done videos to support the idea of murder. But for some reason, Justin, you don't seem to acknowledge those videos. You're still stuck and focused on the things that go against you or the outlook, which I've covered. So that's a bit one-sided there, Justin. So you need to do better with that. But to be labelling my viewers, my supporters as vile and pieces of shit, well, I'm sure people can speak for themselves there. but I'm fully aware that there will be some people here and there on my channel which never cause any problems or trouble, and yet you're calling them vile. Sounds a bit harsh. I mean, you can say what you like to me, but to other people out there, a bit unnecessary. We'll get to that a bit later. There's BS on there. Everybody has their iPhones and Androids backed up on something. I don't. I guess I'm that exception. You don't have to have your old phone to back up all your stuff. You just have to log into your account and it's all downloaded for you. Well, if it's backed up. I choose not to have it backed up, okay? I'm that 1%, that opposite. Julie, no idea or could begin to understand this case anymore. I mean, who or what to believe? Makes zero sense. Too many people involved without any real, true, new information or evidence of anything. We got a return of someone here, Coco Gemini, and I think they may have been a bit tense with other people in the chat previous, but let's just see what they say here. I haven't been here in a long time. Why is that? Yet everything is the same. So sad. Big back still at it, I see. What does that mean? Big back still at it. Are you saying that I've got a big muscular back? If so, thank you. Then Coco says that Bayotch, as in bitch, is going to hell for sure. Seems like a personal attack to me. Sell out, I see. Sad. Sell out. Who is a sell out? You're not making sense, Coco. I think the context, what Coco is referring to here, Coco, I think, is calling BBC a Bayotch. Okay. And Coco says, wall to wall, I still ain't sold out. Most of you obtuse, unintelligent beings on this channel are also evil. Well, okay, interesting. See, the problem with Coco, Gemini, and Justin Roy in vaguely claiming that supporters can come in as in super chats, super thanks, gifted memberships, and just simply supporting the channel by watching the videos. So really, anyone that watches my videos on a regular basis is a supporter, whether they like it or not. So when Justin calls out my supporters as vile pieces of shit, Justin is calling himself that. Why do humans put themselves in such situations? Why? On the sideline, you know, there'll be supporters and people on my channel that come from other cases and watch my other videos that may stick around for this particular case, but they don't come from this community directly. I think it's unfair to be calling them out and other people in the background that are just simply watching along, trying to learn, and that is it. They're here because they want to be, and that's appreciated. But to be calling them out in that way seems a bit far-fetched. Seems a bit reckless by Justin, because Justin and Coco isn't going to know everyone that watches my channel, my videos, and in the background. Maybe the regular faces and names, as in the dark side, maybe that's what Justin and Coco are referring to, labeling. But when you speak so vaguely, it makes it sound like you're applying it to anyone. So because Justin Roy has watched numerous videos, right? Numerous videos of mine, and he's also left many comments on my channel, that has led to channel engagement and statistics, which is a way of helping grow a YouTube channel, or more so helping grow a video as part of many other comments as well. So Justin Roy has indirectly supported my channel. Justin Roy indirectly is a supporter on my channel. So when he calls people out as in supporters as vile and pieces of shit, Justin is regarding himself to that label. Why do people do that? This is the thing, I don't think enough people think before they speak or type. And even when people do type or whatever, when reading over it, it makes hardly any sense. Either there's not much context, or the words are mismatched, or the words are spelt incorrectly, so it's a hard time trying to read it. Sometimes people make a complete mess up of typing and expect you to know what they're saying, when what they've said is completely different to what they're going to say next, or what they meant in their head. I'm not a miracle worker. I'm not a fortune teller, but people expect me to be. The expectations are pathetic. Humans can be just pathetic. Wording stuff, sentence structuring at times can be absolutely pathetic, right? The amount that I've come across is just crazy. And I'm expected to know. And this is the thing, if I question, just in general, if I question it, then I'm regarded as a bad person. If I question it, the other person gets all tense and yaps and argues and bites. I mean, we saw it with Justin Roy when I questioned it and said, I don't think this concerns this conversation. What are you on about? And then it just led to more responses and so on. And other people can do that as well. What's the point asking questions if it leads to reactions like that? And it's weird how people always say, ask questions, it's a good thing. You should ask questions and communicate. What's the point? What's the point if there's going to be resistance? What's the point if there's going to be an emotional reaction? What's the point if there's going to be a level of coldness? Do I deserve that? I think I deserve a lot better. Okay, maybe with time, like with cases and YouTube, it is what it is. But maybe more so nowadays, I've come to that point where, in a non-narcissistic way, because I never like saying it, I never like saying I deserve better, I deserve to be treated better, I deserve the best, because it's so selfish to say. It tends to be excused if somebody else was to say it on behalf of you. But in some way or another, the way things have gone with time, maybe at that point where, yes, I do deserve better in some ways. If I put the effort in to communicate, to make things clear in my YouTube comments, in my responses, in my videos, then it'd be nice if others could make an effort as well, and it doesn't always happen. It's probably more problematic though when those that don't make an effort also make an effort to complain. That's just a double negative, and it's just not helpful whatsoever. But, there will be a few standout people, a few key individuals on the channel, whether you refer to them as supporters or not, who just simply watch the videos, simply say hi, simply welcome others, and that's it. Whether they're all in focused on the case or they're just there to chat and to welcome people. Is that considered bad behaviour in the eyes of Justin? How Justin vaguely worded it, it comes across that way, which I think is unfair on people out there who've done nothing wrong, right? So that's what happens when there's reckless language. But beside that, true colours are showing more now than ever. And as I've said, it's a fact because it's been backed up with hard evidence. At the end of the day, certain members of the police have spoken negatively about Justin Roy as being a problem. Some of Noah's family members, such as I believe Robin Smith, has mentioned about Justin Roy being a little bit too much, needing to take a step back. So not really positives mentioned there. And based on hard evidence and screenshots, even one of Justin's daughters has spoken out and apologised on behalf of her father's behaviour towards Jasmine Milan at some point in the past. It's not me making it up. It's what's out there public, and as for hard evidence and from the horse's mouth, what they think about Justin. I'm not doing it. If they're digging themselves into a hole, that's upon them in their own reckless words. Here's why it is. Just making observations along the way. For some reason, people get triggered by it. Anyway, hope you found the video somewhat interesting in general, and just simplifying the situation of the case and the ins and outs about it and going beyond. If you want to hit the likes button, that'd be appreciated. Share the video for that awareness, and I'll see you next time, whenever that is. My name's Warlike Wrath. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night for now.